Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the first Pathways to Careers Network webinar of 2015. I'm Carrie Thomas. I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Chicago Jobs Council, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Chris Warden from Women Employed, and our chairperson technical support is Mary Kay Devine of Women Employed. So it's the same team as on previous webinars, we just have slightly different roles today. So before we dive into the meeting agenda, I do want to do some webinar housekeeping with all of you. During the presentations, your phone lines will be muted. We do have a pretty full agenda today, but we've included time at the end for your questions. So we'll deal with unmuting lines when it gets to that time. And then during the entire presentation, there is a chat window in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and that will be open throughout the presentation. So if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to put those into the chat window, and we'll make sure we try to get to them during the Q&A. You can also continue to use the chat feature after the presentations, but then when we do the question period, you'll be able to raise your hand at the top left, and we'll call on you to unmute your line. At the very end, there's going to be a survey that will pop up on your screen, and we ask you to take 2 minutes to provide your feedback at the very end of the webinar, and we use that information to plan future webinars. You'll also have an opportunity to share your thoughts through polling questions that we've interspersed throughout the presentation. So as you heard when you enter the webinar, it is being recorded, and we are going to send you a link to that recording so that you will be able to access it after today. And finally, if you need any technical assistance, we encourage you to contact ReadyTalk directly. They have a great technical support team and are able to troubleshoot things very quickly. So their phone number is 1-800-843-9166. I'll repeat that, 1-800-843-9166. Okay, now I'm going to go to today's presentation. So as always, we start our conversations with the impetus for creating the Pathways to Careers Network, Illinois' urgent need to improve adult transitions into college, post-secondary training, and careers. The facts are what drives us. So by 2020, about 67% of Illinois jobs will require a college degree or certificate. Yet 3 million adults in Illinois do not have any education beyond high school. As a result of this skills gap, out of 100 future jobs, 24 could go unfilled. So to address this skills gap, Women Employed and the Chicago Jobs Council launched the Pathways to Careers Network in 2012, an initiative to increase education and career success for adult learners, especially those with low basic skills. The network advances the missions of both of our organizations. For over 40 years, Women Employed has been mobilizing people and organizations to expand educational and employment opportunities for America's working women. For nearly 34 years, the Chicago Jobs Council has worked with its members to ensure access to employment and career advancement opportunities for people living in poverty. You can see on the screen that there is a link to the Pathways to Careers Network website, and it highlights the 3 areas of work that we do: informing the field, connecting practitioners in the field, and then advocating a policy agenda that supports the field. Before I turn it over to Chris, let's go to our first poll. Those of you who've been on network webinars before will recognize this poll. So we're just asking you to confirm your membership in the network so we can either sign you up, you can check that you're already on the list, or if you want to learn more, we'll contact you.
Oh, and while you're filling in, responding to the poll question, hello, this is Chris Warden. I'm just going to jump in and do a quick introduction for today before we introduce our presenters. So today we're going to talk about how to bridge the path between adult education and careers, and introduce a new tool created in partnership between City Colleges of Chicago and Women Employed called Career Foundations. Career Foundations represents a new approach to career exploration and planning for adult education students that helps students make an informed choice not only about a career, but about the education pathway that will prepare them to meet their career goal. Today we'll have an opportunity to hear about the philosophy behind Career Foundations and how it's being used in City Colleges of Chicago's adult education programs. We'll delve into the details of the course and the curriculum so you can become more familiar with what Career Foundations is, and we'll emphasize how the curriculum can be customized to use in your own program. Lastly, we'll share some exciting developments where Career Foundations is being used in Chicago to create partnerships between city colleges and community organizations in order to build an aligned citywide adult education system. We'll start off today hearing from Ann Darton, the Interim Associate Vice Chancellor for Adult Education at City Colleges, and then Stephanie Summers, a Curriculum Specialist at City Colleges. Stephanie is also the writer for the City Colleges Women Employed Bridge curricula that many of you have downloaded and reviewed. But without further delay, I'd like to pass this presentation on to Ann Darton so that we can get started. And we're going to unmute Ann Darton's phone line. Ann, do we have you with us?
Hello, everyone. Am I coming across?
You are, yes. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Chris. It's such a pleasure to be here to talk about Career Foundations. In this webinar, we hope to explore several things: why we created Career Foundations, who can use it, how to use it, what students will produce in this course, and then the content and resources around the course. So I'm going to dive right in if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
Just to give you all a little historical background for Career Foundations, back in January of 2011, City Colleges began what you may have heard about, an intensive reinvention of our system. And around the reinvention, there were 4 goals set forth, and you can read them here, but the 4th goal is the one that's of great interest to adult ed practitioners. The goal is to increase the number and share of ABE, GED, and ESL students who advance to and succeed in college-level courses. So around that time, we began to aggressively expand our transition programming. This includes expanding bridge courses, bridge programs, and I think everyone on this call knows a great deal about bridge programs. We also expanded another program which was renamed the Gateway to City Colleges program, and in this program, students who are already at the upper levels of ESL and GED can begin to take college-level courses with support while they're in adult education. Now, as we expanded these programs, we did a lot of soul searching and thinking about the nature of our program and some culture changes that needed to happen. So what we were trying to do was to move from a system where there really aren't a lot of linkages between adult ed curriculum and college coursework, where there's not a lot of information about what you can study in college, where adult ed students really aren't being given information about how your level of education can connect with your expected lifetime earnings. We also faced a system where a lot of our students didn't really have a strong end goal other than perhaps improving their English or passing the GED. And very frequently we found our students didn't think of themselves as college material or really didn't think about college much at all. We wanted to transform our system into one where students really expected to learn about and get onto a pathway beyond just GED attainment. We wanted college transition to be a goal that would be discussed throughout the student's time in adult ed and actively encouraged by all, not just teachers, but everyone they encountered. We wanted there to be more relevance for adult ed coursework to any future college coursework that the students might do. We wanted students to be able to actually begin college while they were in adult education, but with the necessary support to allow them to succeed. And last but certainly not least, we wanted the students to have an increased sense of self-efficacy. So in thinking how we would get students from wherever they happen to be at the time to our transition programs, or to even considering transition as a goal, we began thinking more and more about having an actual short supplemental course called, later called Career Foundations. We didn't have that name initially, but we wanted a course that would help students gain the self-awareness and also the awareness of opportunities to get them from adult education to college. So I'm showing you a slide now that essentially outlines in a very general way what students will come out of the course with and what they will understand. We want students to come out of the Career Foundations course with an interest inventory, having selected a focus area or career cluster. At City Colleges we call it focus area, but career cluster would be the more common term. And we would want them to know very specifically what academic and support services would be in their plan for getting to college. We also wanted them to gain a much deeper understanding of those focus areas or areas of study that colleges offer. We wanted them to understand, of course, the difference between an occupational and a transfer pathway, because students very often need short-term training so they can go right to work, but in many cases, adult ed students actually are very interested in a transfer pathway and able to embark on one. We wanted them to understand stackable certifications, the idea of being able to hop off and get a job for a while and come back and complete your education and get a better job. We wanted them to know that they could leverage adult education to get to certificate and degree programs that would come afterwards, and of course, with that, better jobs. And we wanted them to understand the relationship between their level of education and expected earnings and likelihood of employment. As we began to think about the target for Career Foundations, we realized that the students that we really wanted to reach were the ones who were just below the bridge level. And those of you involved in bridges know that they generally start at 6th grade reading level and up. So we wanted to get students at the low intermediate level, 4.0 to 5.9 on the TABE. We wanted to get ESL students just at the point where they could fully participate in a class like this. So we figure in general that's the high intermediate level and up. Students who had heard about bridges, but when they tested, maybe they were not quite ready yet. And then, of course, we wanted to inspire new audiences to come to adult education, perhaps those who previously weren't interested in adult education because they didn't see a strong enough link between coming to adult ed classes and job training. One of the hallmarks of this from the very beginning was that we wanted this to be not just something that we would do for city colleges, but we wanted to look for ways that we could partner with community organizations to work on this jointly, and you'll hear a lot more about that as Stephanie progresses through her part of the presentation.
Thank you, Anne, very much. At this point, we are going to hold questions until the end of the presentation, but please feel free to type them in the chat or write them down for yourself and then raise your hand later to ask questions. But at this moment, we're going to let Stephanie Summers talk in a little more detail about the Career Foundations curriculum itself. And we are going to unmute Stephanie's phone line. And we should have her on the line. Stephanie?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you, yes.
Great. Okay. Well, wonderful to be on this webinar today. Let's go here. Yes. My job today is really to give you all a good sense of what the key elements of the Career Foundations curriculum are, so you can kind of get your head around it before you actually see it. And then interspersed throughout this presentation are the customization options, either for, this is directed towards representatives of community colleges that are on this line, or Chicago area community-based organizations, and so that you can take this curriculum and make it fit your programs and your students. So this is the recurring outline that you will see. We'll be going over 5 different key elements of the curriculum in order so you can kind of see how the process that students will go through. The first one is what happens first is setting students up so they can practice soft skills and job skills that will lead to a success in this class. So you'll see on the left-hand side that there's a listing of very basic soft skills and also job skills for students kind of being successful at anything. Time management, problem solving, teamwork and cooperation, self-direction, and dependability. What this curriculum what we've decided to do in this curriculum is, instead of having lessons on these key skills, success skills, we've created activities that are described on the right-hand side, which puts students more in control of the major elements of the class. So one of the first things they do in the curriculum is to be asked to set standards for 4 key elements that have to do with success at anything at an academic level: attendance, punctuality, teamwork, and homework completion. So they're asked, what's good attendance? What is good punctuality? What are the standards we want to hold each other to in this class? The next thing they do is develop their own goals so that they can meet those standards. So if they have a difficulty with punctuality, what are the specific things that they want to do during this class that will help them meet the class standards? And then students are asked to think about and select ways that they can help each other if they're slipping. So are they going to team up and text each other about things, have homework groups, troubleshoot with students that are having difficulty, with the idea being that they're creating kind of a learning community, but also that they're on the same page and working towards the same goals. We'll look at in just a second the way they're going to monitor their own work and their own progress, so that they can report on a weekly basis. And then these activities are very student-centered, and so there's a lot of work in pairs and small groups, and that's in another place where they'll be practicing all these skills. So this is the self-assessment that they keep track, their own how they're doing on all of these, on these 4 elements: punctuality, attendance, homework completion, and focused teamwork. And each day they're supposed to check off when they have they believe that they've met the class standards. And then below is where they put their goals for the things they need to work on to meet the standards, and then they rate per week kind of how well they're doing. This is really to help students understand where they are, but also that they can report to their teachers instead of just having their teachers report to them, so that it's a full dialogue about how well they're doing. So the next part of the curriculum really focuses on getting students to be able to describe themselves in terms of skills, interests, and values. Okay. And they do lots of inventories in this section that give them some language around the skills that they have. So this is a paper version to give you an idea. So they're checking off the different skills that they have, and then tallying them up so they know which areas they might have the strongest skills in, so maybe communication skills or people skills, and they're starting to be able to have some ways to describe themselves. This is extended to make sure that people, whether they work or not, or are working at home or in the community, that they can increase their list of skills. So this one really looks at household skills or kitchen skills or garage skills, things that people do every day. And these are the kind of categories in which the smaller skills are listed, and they're gathering those together in a big list. They also go to the Illinois Career Information System online, which offers a set of assessments in very simple language, so it's appropriate to this level. The first one that they do, they answer a number of questions, and then they get kind of the result is their REASSEC characteristics, which is a way of categorizing people with different skills. And the idea here is they're again gathering more language of ways to talk about themselves. Are they doers or are they helpers? What kind of person are they when they start to think of work? And then the last inventory they do is this career cluster inventory, where again they're asked about their interests in very simple language, and then the end result is a match of industries that they might be appropriate to their skills. So they're beginning to have this matching going on between their skills and their and jobs they might be interested in. The next piece is to get a sense of their short and long-term goals. And the curriculum does this by having them do a simple budget for expenses and a budget for incomes, so they have a kind of detailed understanding about where they are now. And then they start to look at how their life might change at different income levels. So they think about it if they make $100 more a month, or $200, $500, $1,000, $2,000 even. And they would start with their needs. What would they do to meet the needs of their families, and then what would they want as the income gets larger? How would things improve their lives? And so they are able to translate kind of these projections into short and long-term goals in ways that relate to a potential career path. That this simulates what a good, solid career path might do for them. And the end of this section results in an elevator speech so that they can say clearly and succinctly the basics about who they are, their values, their strongest goals, their strongest skills, their short and long-term goals, and then jobs or areas of jobs that they might be interested in. This really primes them for the next section of the curriculum, which is exploration of career areas and clusters that are relevant to the community college that they want to go to. And so you'll see here that their customization alerts in red, so that the pages that I'll be talking about have customization alerts, so it's very clear which areas community colleges and CBOs will need to look at to make sure that the curriculum fits them. So the first part of this section starts to broaden their idea of what a career path might do for them, with this idea that the more education you get, the more you can earn. And there are a number of graphs and charts where they get that message. And then once they understand kind of those relationships, there's the presentation of the areas that are available to them at their community college. So this is the page for the city colleges focus areas, And again, of course, it says customization alert at the top because this will need to be customized for community colleges to identify what it is they're offering in terms of career path options. So at city colleges, there's this advanced manufacturing, healthcare, business, IT, construction, the human sciences, culinary arts, natural sciences, education, transportation, distribution, logistics. So these are the 10 areas available at the city college system that students are going to relate themselves to. So they're going to say, I'm really good at working with my hands. Maybe I'm interested in advanced manufacturing or transportation, distribution, and logistics. Or, I'm a really great cook, and I would love to work in a restaurant, so maybe I'm interested in culinary arts. These kinds of alignments of themselves to what's going on specifically at city colleges is what we're looking for here. On the back of this very central sheet for this section, as you'll see, are the 10 focus areas restated. And then under them are all of the programs offered in those areas. So this sheet is what is available for them at the college level within city colleges. So it's a kind of exciting sheet that way because it's such a good summary. You will see after each one of the stated programs are some acronyms. And there's BC, AC, there's AASs, and you'll find different AAs and ASs. These are acronyms for the credentials that students, the stackable credentials that students can earn while they're in college. So BC, the BC here stands for Basic Certificate, the AC is Advanced Certificate, AAS is as an associate's degree. There are a number of different associate's degrees. Some of them are occupational, some of them are transfer. So this sheet gets to be kind of the place where they're going to learn about all of these different concepts. From this sheet, they go online at ccc.edu to look at the different programs, how long each program takes, the jobs that they would be eligible for, and how much each of them pay. So clearly the customization issues are for community colleges some summary, easy to read summary sheets that say what are the specific areas that students can prepare themselves for. And then another sheet that breaks that down to what are the specific degrees or programs that they can, or certificates that they can earn in each area. Also some clear user-friendly information about each of the programs. And by user-friendly information, I mean information that's appropriate for students at the 4.0 to 5.9 TABE reading level. But this information that they can utilize to let them know how long it will take to complete each of the certifications or degrees, the jobs that they will be prepared for as a result, and the salary of those jobs. Chicago CBOs are invited to think of the vocational training programs in their communities that might be appropriate for students, and so that they have all of their career training opportunities presented to them at one time. And again, that it's presented through user-friendly information so that they can access that information and think about what all their options are. This slide is really what they're trying to get an idea of in an area of their interest. What's the career path look like? So at the city colleges, they're looking at, this is for the high school level jobs. They would fill in here, this is the basic certificate, the advanced certificate, the associate's degree level, and up here is BA or more, and they're going to start to fill in some options in the programs in the area of their interest on some of the jobs that they might be able to get, look up some of the pay for the jobs and get an average so that they can start to see that, oh yes, more education will result in higher income, and then also getting a sense of how long the college level education would take them for the various stackable credentials. The fourth part of the curriculum really starts to change direction. The first parts really are focused on, so what's going on, who are you, and then how would you fit into college level opportunities at your community college. This part of the curriculum now asks the question, how do you get from where you are right now to college? And so there's an exploration of support services and adult education options, and kind of the pathways through those. And again, this section has the customization alerts, I think on all of them, so stay tuned. So the first question is, so what support services are available to you right now that could help you get from where you are to the college level? And so this listing here are the services that are available at each of the city colleges. So clearly that's a customization alert place. But the activities that lead up to that are some research about, online research about each of these services, putting their questions together, practicing the questions, so when they go on a field trip, they can know where the offices are, meet the people that are going to be representing those services, and be prepared to ask them the questions for the information that they need. Customization issues are clearly community colleges needing to be clear about those services, and again have user-friendly information about them for students to use, and ideally, again, of course, online. Chicago area CBOs will need to think about the services that they're going to be offering while students are with them, and then the services that will be offered at city colleges. And some, depending on how CBOs are organizing their services, it could be services before, during, and possibly after students are at city colleges. So they'll need to have some clear information about those services alongside the information that students can get on ccc.edu. And then they need to go on the field trip so that the students can put those two sets of services together in their mind. Big customization alert at the bottom of this slide, because these next two slides are detailed pathways for adult education at city colleges. And so students should be able to look at these two slides and see where they might fit in. So all these blue boxes at the top describe the different courses, regular adult education courses in ABE and ASE, and the bottom set of boxes are for ESL. Each one of these boxes is estimated for these purposes to be about a semester. And sometimes I get cautioned that that's a short amount of time for each of these levels. But the way that teachers are encouraged to talk about this is that if students are good at punctuality, attendance, homework completion, and teamwork, that they should be able to make the level gains going straight through this. In any case, this marks where the Career Foundations course is taken for students that are in the ABE courses or in the ESL courses, and how they can transition to bridge programs. The bridge programs are described in this box. Bridge programs are more intensive. At City Colleges, they're 20 hours per week for 24 weeks. So each of these 3 courses are 8 weeks long and are therefore shorter than the other progression of adult education courses would be. There's a listing of the bridge programs that are available, and also some acronyms about which colleges they're available at. So students can start to see, oh, I am interested in culinary arts. Oh, it is at at Kennedy King, and what that might mean for them in terms of getting into a bridge program. The last piece of information that's important about this slide is that at Bridge 3 there's a college-level course that's integrated into the program, so that students will be able to start their college-level classes before they're finished with adult education courses. And hopefully that's exciting to them. For those students that there's not a bridge program for, let's say I'm going to want to be a counselor. There's not a bridge program for being a counselor. So I could apply to the Gateway program, and if I am in good standing, meaning that I am good at my punctuality, my attendance, my homework completion, and teamwork, and they accept me in the Gateway program, then I can start my college credit programs alongside my adult education programs earlier, get additional support both before and after I go into college full time. So creating these kinds of flow charts that are accurate is very important for both community colleges and CBOs. That they're simple to read and all of that is important, but that community colleges take advantage of special academic programs, particularly those that get them into college-level courses early if possible, and that they're able to use these to kind of calculate the time that it's going to take them to get to college-level courses or just full-time college. It's a little more complicated for Chicago CBOs because they're going to have to decide when they're going to transition their students to the city colleges. Are they going to get students up to the 6.0 level, TABE level, to get them into bridge programs? Are they going to keep them and get them their GEDs and get them to pass the Compass test so they can go on into college? And when do they want their students to take advantage of the Gateway program? And the last part of the curriculum is to make a plan, a very specific plan about getting to college. How are they going to get from where they are now to college-level courses? So what they're asked to do is to draw out their own plan based on the templates that are given them, to start to match the services that they want to take advantage of as they move along. And then they move to making this pre-college timeline, pre-college plan timeline, and I can show you that in the next slide. So this is kind of a generic format, but they're supposed to put in the years they're working on. And the next month after this course, they'll be going to classes. And so they put the months up here. They put the first course that they're going to go in, and then they shade in those months they'll be in that course. And then their to-do list has to do with what services are they going to take advantage of while they're in that course, and are there other options for city colleges? Are they going to apply for the bridge program or the Gateway program, or are there issues around financial aid, or any of those other issues that students need to pay attention to in your separate programs as they move from course to course while they're still in adult education. So at the very end, students do a final presentation where they could kind of declare the career focus area or cluster that they're interested in. They give an explanation of why they chose this career area. What about them is a good match for this area? What's their long-term career goal? They think they might need an advanced certificate or a basic certificate, or maybe they want to go on for a associate's degree, or maybe even a BA degree. And then the adult education courses and programs they want to include in their pre-college plan, the support services that they'll use, and then the approximate date that they think they'll be taking their first college course. Again, if they can take them earlier, before, while they're in adult education, that should be a source of excitement and real focus on their current adult education classes. And this is my last slide, and it's in here because in dealing at city colleges with people doing recruiting for career foundations and teachers of career foundations, there was initially some confusion about what career foundations was or wasn't. So I'm giving you kind of the things we had to focus on to kind of get people clear about this course. Career Foundations is not a job readiness course. You don't want students coming to this class thinking that it's going to help, this course is going to help them get a job. Certainly at the beginning they do all the language collection of their skills and so forth and setting objectives that make them ripe for a resume, but they really need to be referred to a job readiness class or employment services to do that work. Career Foundations does not teach specific soft skills as described before. There's an attempt here to build the practicing of those into the way the class is managed. Career Foundations is not a reading and writing course. This course is designed to go alongside adult education courses. The course does include reading and writing, but this is not the time to be talking about reading strategies or grammar in writing. What's really the focus of this is to get students to have a real plan that fits them and that they're excited about implementing. And then Career Foundations teachers are not to be expected to perform the role of college advisors. They're not going to know everything about all of the details about what it takes to make all these steps happen. They need to understand the materials of the course, be able to explain them clearly to students, and for students to do the planning process. Then after that comes the referral to college advisors that can go into all of those details. And so that's presentation of the curriculum.
Stephanie, thank you very much for going through that in such clear detail with us. We're going to move now to a polling question. As I said, we're offering Career Foundations as a tool. As many of you have seen, and I know many of you downloaded it before the webinar, it's available online. But we're just interested in taking the temperature of the group of whether or not there's interest in using Career Foundations or customizing it to your own college or your own community organization. So we're going to take a few minutes and let you respond to this question. In the meantime, we have a couple more slides for presentation, so I'm going to hand this back to Ann Darton. But I'm also going to recommend that if people have questions, you begin to type some of your questions into the chat window, because as soon as Ann finishes, we will then go to questions and answers. So I'm going to close the poll. Do we have everyone's answers? It looks like it. And I am now going to hand it back to Ann Darton.
Thank you, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so hello again, everyone. I'd like to, now that you have heard about the course and what it really consists of, I'd like to step back again and talk a little bit more about our vision. We've had many conversations about this among ourselves, and we are inviting you to think this through with us. We would really like to think that any adult education student who takes Career Foundations will develop a career goal based on locally available occupational and academic programs that lead to post-secondary education. Having this course, and I know that there are similar efforts out there, but having this course in particular has really opened the door to our being able to build an aligned citywide career pathway system in Chicago. Some community organizations have already begun to offer Career Foundations as part of their on-ramp for low-skilled adults to bridge and other transition programs. And community organizations are customizing Career Foundations to include their own programs as part of the pathway. This really has the potential to help increase college transitions for all of us, since students are going to enter their chosen pathway with a clear career goal and a plan for advancing to post-secondary programs. And we want to welcome community organizations to join us in this effort to move toward an aligned citywide career pathway system. It's a very exciting time. If you are thinking that you may want to do this, some of the key questions that you'll probably want to ask yourselves are to decide what level of students you wish to serve, whether it's ABE, ASE students, what reading levels, what level of English proficiency, what particular population you'll serve. And I should just insert as an aside that even though we geared this for students below the bridge level, we found that students even more advanced than that were interested in joining Career Foundations courses. And we found that contrary to most kinds of classes where you normally don't want to have a multi-level situation, we found that with Career Foundations we could successfully have a range of student abilities in the class, because we're not teaching basic skills, we're teaching content that's high interest for all the participants. So it worked out very well to have students who were at the intermediate level and students who were at the advanced level in the same class. You have to decide on the preferred education pathways for your students or clients. In other words, when you're mapping out what this looks like for student-facing documents, what adult education programs you're going to map out, what bridge occupational or workforce programs you provide, and of course the particular support services that are available to you. I don't think we've really talked about the format of this class up until now, and that's something that many of you may be curious about. We wanted this class to be taken along with existing ESL or ABE or GED classes, as well as perhaps a standalone course. So we designed it to be fairly short and really jam-packed full of activities. It's 32 hours in most cases total, and our preferred format is for the class to be held twice a week, 2 two-hour sessions for 8 weeks, so 32 contact hours in all. But many colleges here at City Colleges have found that it's much easier for them to schedule this once a week for a 4-hour block. So same thing, 32 contact hours, but 4 hours a week for 8 weeks. We have also talked a lot about having an intensive format so that students who are coming into the program, and perhaps it's not the right time since we're a fixed entry program, maybe it's not the right time to get into a class, we might be able to offer this as an intensive class 8 hours a week for 4 weeks, serving as an orientation class, and hopefully helping new students to really get off on a very strong footing, knowing exactly why they're enrolling in this program, having a strong purpose. We do have enough material. Stephanie was wise enough to include lots of extra material that could be added if a program wished to expand to 48 hours instead of 32 contact hours. And as you probably were thinking as you saw what the course consists of, it's quite possible to select components out of Career Foundations and use them as standalone activities if it doesn't work for a particular organization or program to actually schedule this as a class. And I think that about takes care of the nuts and bolts description.
Anne, thank you very much, and Stephanie, thank you as well. As you can see, we have another polling question up on the page about how you envision Career Foundations helping you implement WIOA, because as we talked about in our last webinar in December, there are lots of, or we anticipate there will be a focus, we know there will be a focus on career pathway systems and supporting and promoting transitions. So while you have an opportunity to respond to this polling question, I'm going to hand this over to Carrie, and we'll take some questions from the audience.
Right, so I'm going to start with a couple of questions that we had in the chat, and then we'll go to raising hands. People can raise their hands already, and then we'll identify you. But first, there are some people on the webinar who are not from Illinois, so they're looking at this from the perspective of another state. So the first question, I think, Anne, would be for you. Is City Colleges of Chicago a collaborative of community and technical colleges?
So the answer to that is we are a multi-campus district, so we're essentially a single district with 7 campuses, and among our offerings are both occupational and transfer programs.
Thank you. The next question is just to clarify, is this curriculum currently restricted to or offered only via City Colleges of Chicago?
Shall I take that one as well?
Please.
This is not at all restricted. This is a shared curriculum, and it's available to anyone who's interested in offering it through Women Employed. And we are so excited about it, and we're excited to know that other programs are interested in using it as well.
And if I could, this is Chris Warden, if I could add to that answer, actually starting in January of this year, there were some community organizations here in Chicago that began offering Career Foundations as a standalone course in conjunction with the ABE and GED courses they were already offering. We also have a number of community-based organizations in Chicago that already had existing career exploration courses that are taking, drawing sections out of Career Foundations and incorporating those into their existing courses. When Anne talked just a few minutes ago about Career Foundations opening the door to an aligned citywide adult education system, it's really through Career Foundations being offered by a number of organizations, because Chicago has several providers, that is beginning to take shape. If I could, I would actually like to pose a question of my own, but it's actually for you, Anne. I'm curious if there is advice that you would give to other adult education directors, managers, folks who are thinking about implementing this on the work that you did around creating the Career Foundations course.
Oh, that's a great question, Chris. I think I would, first of all, advise people who are interested to really go forward with this and to do so in collaboration with whoever would be appropriate for their particular situation. Of course, it's been a great joy working with Women Employed as a collaborator, with Stephanie, who is actually part of our organization, but a superb curriculum designer, with people on my own team who are experts in workforce development and adult education, with people on the other side of the house, so to speak, people who are actually on the credit side working in CTE programs. It's a really good chance to have those great conversations with people who are basically really all interested in the same thing, which is to help low-skilled adults achieve their full potential and get more folks into those credit programs that will allow someone to attain family-sustaining wages and a chance for job advancement.
Thank you, Anne. And just a reminder, if you want to raise your hand up in the upper left corner of the screen, you can raise your hand and then we'll call on you to unmute your line. But in the meantime, on your screen is where you will, the link for where you will find the Career Foundations curriculum download option, as well as the Bridge curriculum that we've talked about in the past. But we also have a question in the chat. So this is Julia Rayburn. We have Career Pathways Bridge to Success program at the Goodwill Commons classrooms in Peoria, Illinois. Her question is how to keep students to finish the program and follow through. Do you use incentives, and what are they? So I think either Anne or Stephanie.
I'd be happy to take that. This is Anne. I think that's a really interesting question you've posed. We have not used incentives, and for those who are just starting to offer this approach or plan to use it, we can probably all learn a lot from each other to find out what helps students to actually finish the course. We've had quite good retention in many of our courses. There are a few where, frankly, the retention hasn't been as strong as we would like, and we're trying to take a deeper dive and try to find out what makes some teachers or some courses more successful than others. Incentives might be something to explore, but ultimately what we're really hoping to do is get students to complete because intrinsically they recognize the value of where they're going to get as a result of this course.
Thanks, Anne. We have another question in the chat box from Anna Nakashima. What are the student requirements for the Gateway program from the college side? Do you use the Ability to Benefit program for adult ed students, and how does the college work with them?
So for our Gateway program, students have to be in the upper levels of either ESL or GED. They must take the Compass test, which is City College's college entrance exam. And surprisingly, the threshold on Compass is quite low. It's 50. But the students tend to score higher than that. And they also have to have a teacher recommendation and document that they've been consistent students in their previous adult education classes. And that seems to work pretty well. We have a good success rate in Gateway with students earning pretty good grades in their college courses. A lot of A's and B's.
Thank you. We have about 2 minutes left. Are there any other additional questions? I have one. Do we have one more? The question is, have any internships been considered for student experiences?
This is something that we would love to do, but have not been able to do up to this point.
Okay, thank you. I know that that's an idea that I've heard in other contexts as well. Another question, who pays for the Gateway courses?
We're very fortunate in that the college waivers are a budgeted expense for the institution, not for adult ed, obviously, but for the institution.
Thank you. I'm going to close out with one last question, and that is, could you, Anne or Stephanie, talk about your thinking about training teachers to deliver the Career Foundations course and kind of how you're approaching that?
That's a great question for Stephanie.
Yeah. Well, we our last session we had teachers from other community-based organizations and from city colleges together in a two-day session, going through all the pieces of the curriculum so that whatever teachers were there were feeling really confident about what they were delivering, and for the CBOs, what they needed to take back to their organizations and customize so that they could get the course up and running.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to close out today. Thank you very much, Stephanie and Ann, for doing this great and thorough presentation. The contact info for each of them is on your screen. Thanks also to my co-hosts, Chris Warden and Mary Kay Devine from Women Employed. Thank you to all of you who joined us. We had over 70 people on the webinar. So we're actually looking forward to seeing who else is interested in downloading the curriculum or making changes.